Welcome to r/MaliciousCompliance, where we share stories of people conforming to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story. In retaliation for being unfairly accused, an overworked nurse removed her beautiful window art, leaving her manager in dismay. The second story. IT manager tries to get a peer unjustly fired at work, and he gets caught with his own stash of videos the size of a planet. The third story. Customer's arrogance backfires when he underestimates the weight of a heavy entertainment center, leading to a comical showdown. The first story is this what you wanted? For context, I worked in a retirement home as the only nurse on during any shift, and worked graveyard shifts. Even this shift was jam-packed with duties because they didn't ever want us to be bored. A good 1/3 of these duties involve cleaning that got overlapped by housekeeping at least once a week. I'm fairly creative and my managers knew this. My one manager asked me to do window art paintings to make the place seem more festive for a super important party they were throwing for the public. They were going out of their way to make it look nicer than usual because their bosses and the owners were going to attend, as well as local news. I agreed to do the painting for free because it sounded fun. They asked me a week before the party, so I figured I would just use my 1-hour total break time during a shift to do the painting instead of coming in on my 1 day off that week. The paintings were all over the glass doors and floor-to-ceiling windows, so it took some time. I spent 5 of my shifts doing them, and the night before the party I finally finished. I painted the hour closer to the beginning of my shift to finish it on day 5. The rest of the shift was insane with emergencies that only I could tend to, because I'm the only actual nurse on duty. Needless to say, a lot of the little cleaning things didn't get done, such as cleaning windows and mopping the floor. I left the manager a note of all the cleaning duties that I didn't have time for, because I usually finish all my duties, and I like to keep them informed when I'm unable to. I come in through the front doors on my last night shift and smile because the painting is exactly what I envisioned and it's finally done. I got a lot of texts from coworkers and managers saying how much they love the paintings and how it'll be perfect for pictures. In my med room is a note with my name on it. My manager wrote me a note saying it was unacceptable that these duties were unfinished, and I should not have wasted company time doing the painting instead of my duties. Mind you, I had told her I would only be using my break times to do the paintings when I was initially asked to do them. There were cameras pointing at the areas I was painting, so she was able to see that I never spent more than an hour per shift painting. I'm so mad at this point reading the letter. My shift finishes at 7 a.m. and the party is set to start at 11 a.m. Cue malicious compliance. I washed the hell out of those windows that night. Goodbye art. I went home before that manager got there so I didn't have to explain. My coworkers told me the other managers were all mad at her for ruining the photo op spot and understood why I cleaned it off. Still makes me smile thinking about it. The next story is Audit all the desktop computers? Sure thing, boss. Many moons ago, when Kinzua Kid was closer to being an actual kid than a retiree, he did IT support for a large organization with a huge acreage. Kid's manager Daffy was a scumbag of the worst sort, with a chip on his shoulder about one of his peers, Elmer, in the maintenance department. He just hated the guy, which was weird because Elmer was a decent guy, a super dedicated family man and cheerful, precisely anti-Daffy. Elmer never caused a problem and even saved me a ton of time in problem triage before I had to haul my A across a large site to investigate his computer or phone issues. Why? Because Elmer was a smart and thoughtful man, unlike his namesake. I liked Elmer. His entire department liked me, and we all despised Daffy, who was always rude, condescending, and just plain mean to the tradespeople. Pre-2000 Elmer called me out for an issue with one of their shared workstations. A bit of digging and I can see that someone downloaded a bunch of video 21+, filling up a too small boot drive. In the pre-2000 era without useful firewall filters or effective desktop management tools, the fact that there were shared logins didn't bode well for locating the source of the nudies. So I just yelled loudly to 50 guys, whoever is downloading this needs to knock it the F off. Because what the hell is wrong with you doing that on a work machine in the middle of an open warehouse? Everyone nodded, everybody got the message. Times were simpler. Problem solved, I think. I chuckle as I'm reporting back to Daffy what happened. People were being stupid, I said, and this probably won't happen again because I quietly let it slip that I might have installed some new NSA-level monitoring software on the machine. I hadn't. I'll go spot check it again in a week and we can figure it out if we need to take more action. Daffy wasn't having it, and he was instantly convinced that Elmer was downloading the video and having watch parties in the middle of a very open warehouse. I'm gonna effing run that guy on a rail. Call HR right now and get him written up, says Daffy. Kinzua Kid. Whoa dude, slow down. There's no way it was Elmer. Elmer has his own laptop and his own login to that machine. The files were stored under the shared login home drive, so it could be any of 50 guys. Plus, he's never on that computer, and certainly not long enough to fill a hard drive with video on our T1 connection. Daffy, I don't care what you think. I want a complete investigation right now. You go get me a complete forensic analysis of every PC, and you'll find a way to tie those files to him for sure. You have a meeting with me and HR at the end of the week to present your findings. I'm filing a formal complaint with HR. Go. Kinzua Kid is just a cog in the machine. So, a complete forensic analysis it is. I mean, really could have just looked at that one computer's logs, but doing some pointless digging was easy, and I almost never had to leave my desk to touch every machine. Almost. Just once did I need to take a walk. He did say complete after all. Friday comes and there's a big powwow. Daffy comes in wearing an SH-eating grin. Elmer is freaking out because he's the target of a witch hunt that could destroy him personally and professionally, and the two female HR reps are ready to unleash hell once I drop the proof bomb on them. Elmer's boss is standing by severely, looking ready to drop a hammer once I finish this readout. I explained that I dug into every machine and found a lot more video. It was all over the company. Daffy leans in expectantly, but I mentioned based on the file data there was no possibility Elmer had anything to do with it, other than maybe not actively yelling at people for being creepy. The simple fact was the dirty files on the shared maintenance machine were downloaded and accessed at times Elmer was out of the country on vacation, and since it's a shared login, there are dozens of potential culprits. Dejected Daffy cursed me under his breath and stomped out. Now both relieved and angry, Elmer breathed a quiet thank you before standing up. Elmer's boss is still looking severe. Kinzua Kid. 1 second, Elmer's boss in HR. I have another issue I found in my investigation we need to address with just you folks. Daffy and Elmer. You need us for this? Kinzua Kid. Nah, minor thing and I'll be 5 minutes. Fill you guys in later. Can you close the door on the way out? With a wink to Elmer, who now has an inkling of megatonnage I'm about to detonate, the door shuts and I proceed to explain that I found an ungodly amount of video on every single machine everywhere. HR. What do you mean every machine? Kinzua Kid. I mean all 400 workstations in the company. We're a smut distributor now, it would seem, and the logs tell a pretty good story about how that came to be. HR. Go on. As I produce a pair of extra hardcore DVDs from my folder, I explain that because of the way we have roaming profiles set up, not my brightest idea by the way, every time someone logs into a new machine, all their home drive files are copied over to the machine a user logs onto. None of the video the maintenance guys allegedly downloaded was found anywhere but that one machine, because they only log in there. But because Daffy likes to micromanage and logs into most machines to do basic troubleshooting as himself, some of his videos in folders labeled Not Really, or something like it, is copied down to his home drive folder on the desktop. Since I didn't want to level an unfounded accusation, unlike Daffy, I had the only other guy with Daffy's office key, Elmer's boss, let me in overnight to Daffy's office with Elmer's boss on hand to witness. Daffy's locked desk was full of DVDs and magazines, and his email was ridden through with attachments of questionable legality. Like half the company's outgoing email GB were videos. HR. This is disturbing. Elmer's boss. And I'm filing a formal complaint. HR. We'll get to the bottom of this and get back to you with the paperwork. Kinzua Kid. You better act fast, because Daffy isn't stupid, and I guarantee he had his ear up against the door until just a moment ago. If we look right now, I'm certain we'll see him deleting a lot of data. HR. Can you even see that for real? Kinzua Kid. Sure, watch. We put my laptop on a projector so everyone could marvel at the furious activity of Daffy trying to cover his tracks. The email server was about to crash from the massive data purge in progress. HR. If we can't verify your findings, there won't be much we can do other than to have a stern talking to. Crap he has in his desk is irrelevant. We should go over there now. Elmer's boss. Are you serious right now? Kinzua Kid. Don't panic. Here's the backup tapes for the network shares, email server, and Daffy's desktop. I cut them this morning before walking into this meeting. Big grin ensues. Elmer's boss starts choking on his suppressed laughter so hard, HR asks if he's okay. HR. I don't think that formal complaint will be necessary. HR assistant, go get our general counsel, company lawyer. Sometime later, much longer than it should have taken, Daffy was frog-marched out of the building and given a lifetime trespass ban from visiting the facility even as a customer. A year later, Daffy was in a call center doing level 1 support for just above minimum wage. 20 years later, at 65 years old, Daffy finally made it back up to IT manager at a tiny shop that most certainly doesn't conduct effective background checks. Guess who instantiated the all-user home drive files are copied to the local machine policy? If you guessed Daffy, give yourself a star. Dumb A Daffy. The third story is, it's kinda heavy, but I'd be happy to take it to your car for you. This is almost 30 years ago, but I worked in the warehouse of a large Sears store. Part of our job was to retrieve large items from the warehouse and give them to customers. If they needed help putting it in their car or tying them down in some manner, we'd gladly do that as well. It was in our job description. Be nice to customers and always offer to help load their items. Most customers were awesome, but a small subset clearly thought of us as some form of pond scum that they had to suffer through dealing with. One such person came through one day with a ticket for an entertainment center. Basically a piece of furniture to house his TV, stereo, etc. It was one of those flat pack things, or it was made from compressed wood particles with a veneer on top with fake wood printed on it, and you had to put it together yourself. Basically like those bookcases you buy at IKEA. And it was heavy as F, easily 180 pounds. It was in a remarkably tight box, about 6 feet tall, but maybe on 12 inches by 8 inches in the other dimension. And because these U-build things were pretty new at the time, most people upon seeing the relatively small box, relative to the giant entertainment center that the contents become once built, would assume the contents were fairly light. So this guy shows up to the counter, girlfriend in tow, and I ask him, "Hi, how can I help you?" He stares at me for some reason, doesn't say a word, and tosses his receipt at me. He literally kinda threw it at me. It slid across the counter and fell on the floor. I don't think he intended to basically throw it on the floor, but he certainly didn't apologize either. I was a bit shocked, but I picked it up, saw it was for an entertainment center, and told him, "Great, I'll be right back." Now, typically you would carefully load the box onto a hand truck and wheel it out to his car and help him load it. Not this time. I went around the back, had one of my coworkers help heft it onto my shoulder, and I stumbled towards the front. As I got around the corner and into the view of the customer, I summoned all my strength to make it appear as light as a feather. I walked to the counter, bent down slightly and gently but quickly put it on the counter, doing my very best to make it appear as if it's almost an empty box. "It's kinda heavy, but I'd be happy to help take it to your car for you," I told him, doing my very best to both comply with my job description while subtly challenging his masculinity. He responds, "Yeah, I think I can handle it," dripping with condescension. The next part I can just completely visualize in my head like it was yesterday, even though it happened 28 years ago. He put his hand around the box on the counter, and then turns his body to start walking away, but the box stays rock still on the counter. He was literally walking away while his hands stay firmly rooted onto the box. He turns back a bit confused and pulls again. It doesn't budge. It was basically that scene in the Avengers when different superheroes take turns trying to pick up Thor's hammer. Finally, he realizes it's really effing heavy. "Are you sure you don't need some help, sir?" I ask. He turns beet red but doesn't say anything. Then using basically all his strength, he manages to pick it up and hold it to his side, which is way harder than if he got in on his shoulders. He starts stumbling towards the door, and his girlfriend tries to grab the front end to help. "I got it," he barks. Then he stumbles through the door into his car. Edit. It was mostly guys in our warehouse, but we did have a 5'2" girl named Heather who just looked teeny, but was strong as all get out. Every once in a while, we'd carefully put one of those entertainment centers on her shoulders, steady her, and let her walk to the counter confidently, just to really mess with Mr. Testosterone. But honestly, she was really cute, and it backfired a couple of times when Mr. Testosterone weighed his choices. Should I have my manhood challenged, or should I watch a cute girl try to put a giant entertainment center in my trunk? Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.